I was just hanging out, figuring out what I was gonna do today, and I was like, I need to, dust things off with Substack because I haven't done a live since my last release, maybe last year. So I thought, you know what? As opposed to preparing, why don't I just push the button and start running my mouth and see what happens just for a few minutes, see how the, sound is, see how things are going. But here I am in my tiny little office in my cottage on Peaks Island, and we're less than a month away from my forthcoming novel, the, English Bookstore in Bologna, and I'm thinking about marketing and promoting. I finally have created a window of space where I have the time to, just step back for a little bit from my writing gig. I turned in no one really knows this. I turned in Salvation Isle, my current project. I turned that into my dev editor last week, and I also turned in a craft book called Drowning in Words that, kind of just bubbled out of me over the last year. So somehow I promised I would never do this again, but I've written 2 books in a year again, and I just felt this need, and actually the craft book lined up perfectly with my work in progress, Salvation Isle. It was almost kind of like creating a making of documentary that paralleled my project, and it just worked out really wonderfully, and it's kind of my advice on what I've learned in writing 16, 17 books, whatever it is now, and it has a fresher voice. Or not a fresher voice, it has a fresh voice. I've read a lot of craft books, I adore them, and I think I have something different to say. A lot of what my writing journey has also been a personal journey and a spiritual journey and an emotional journey, and those are the pieces that I address a lot of because that's what's made me a better writer. Of course, doing a lot of reading and studying diction and grammar and that kind of thing is so important, but also learning how to set myself free as an artist has been such a big part of it, and that's what I addressed. Anyway, I turned those in and I'm out here on Peaks Island, and all of a sudden I woke up with nothing to do, and at first it was an uneasy feeling, but I'm starting to totally lean into it. I'm getting ready to write an article on this, but we as writers train ourselves to put our butts in the chair and work hard every day. And that's how you build a habit. Once you have that habit, you start to be able to churn out books because that's just what happens. If you get in front of your keyboard every day and start moving your fingers and creating sentences, eventually you get a book. And if you keep doing that, you can build a career, but it's a tough habit. I mean, you have to work hard. It's not just sit down in the chair. It's get past your demons. It's tell a good story. And I have, baked in this habit to such a way that it's hard for me to not do it. It's hard for me to wake up and not think, "You better get your ass headed towards the chair." But it's exactly the lesson I have to learn after every project is just to dial it back down and plug back in and let my nervous system chill out, let the grind fall away from me. And so that's where I am right now is this really peaceful place where I've just been playing music. My son and I are binge watching Twilight. I'm getting ready to go on a long hour and a half long walk with my wife around Peaks Island. We just agreed to go. My son and I and my friend Steve are going to go play Porch Fest on August 8th. We're going to have a little hour gig in the afternoon on August 8th, along with a bunch of other musicians who play around the island. And so I've just committed to that. And really, God, it's just so nice to step away. And it just reminds me of the importance of the seasons, if you know what I mean. That idea that, um, you need to grind, you need to get up and work and do your thing. But as an artist, you just can't go every day 9 to 5. You're not a banker. You have to recharge. You have to, if you're going to create a lot of output, you got to create a lot of input. And the way I do input is to first stop working as much. In fact, I'm just now for the next few weeks, I'm really just doing a little bit of promotion for my book and then mostly just recharging because all that input starts to like build something and I can already feel it. I was watching Twilight, which I haven't seen in a long time, and I was reminded how great of a story it is and why it captivated the world. And I just started to think of, oh God, I kind of wouldn't mind telling this kind of story. Or what if I started to lean into this direction? One of the things I always go back to is I love a good forbidden love story. And I sense that that'll be a piece of it. Um, anyway, that's where I am. I mean, just sometimes the best work that you can do is not working at all, right? As a writer, isn't that a beautiful thing to be? But I'm gonna, why don't I just read a couple pages of this new one and then let you go. Um, and I don't even know how this beautiful Substack Live works. Hopefully it'll go on and live in a place where you can, where people can hear it later because I just, just randomly started recording and I think I'm gonna do that more often. It's kind of nice. I wanted to test to make sure it works out here on my cottage. And it does. So welcome to my little office. I'm going to read for just a moment and then go on a long walk with my wife. Where should I begin? You know, I know exactly where I want to be. Let's just try this and see. This was one of my favorite passages, and I'm probably going to read it a few times over the course of the next couple of weeks. Um, I haven't read it since I published, but let me just jump in. This is one of the characters is Bianca, and I already have to apologize. I didn't even tell my wife I was doing this. She went to take our son to sailing camp on the golf cart and is going to roll back in and probably bust her head in. So apologies in advance. But anyway, Bianca is one of the expats in my story. They're all just a bunch of misfits who are trying to find their way and doing it in rather clumsy ways. And this is Bianca, who's a psychotherapist. This is her last session as a therapist before she has a proper breakdown and decides she needs to go to Italy and just escape. So this woman named Lacey has just walked into her office in Austin. She's a well-known psychotherapist, this Bianca, and uh, she's about to lose her mind. So I'm just going to read through that. I pushed him into the pool, Lacey said 15 minutes later, while Lacey is her client. I pushed him into the pool, Lacey said 15 minutes later, while stretched out on the angular gray couch in Bianca's counseling room at the Four Seasons. He was in a tux and it was cold, frost and super cold, steam rising off the water. Lacey was Bianca's age, early 30s, and wore all white with espadrilles and a beaded turquoise necklace. She sat with her ankles crossed and held a gold pillow with tassels over her stomach. Above her hung a large canvas painting of an elephant with feather earrings that Bianca had bought at an auction last year. How many people were there? Bianca asked, a smile splitting her lips, as unprofessional as that might be. She'd been trying hard to pay attention. At least Lacey's story was getting interesting. Maybe 60, all in formal dress, all influencers, one of them twisting their heads to gawk. Next thing you know, they have their phones out filming the show like paparazzi. Now all of Austin knows our marriage is coming apart and I can't go anywhere without hearing whispers. Thank God for Whole Foods delivery. I come see you and I go to the nail salon. Other than that, I'm imprisoned at home. Lacey paused. Why did you stop taking notes? Sitting in her sweetest chair, Bianca pretended to glance at her notes, but actually looked down at the comic strip she'd started to draw, a series of panels, the first starting with a rough sketch of a plane taking off. In barely legible text, it read, Bianca Airlines, across the side. The second panel showed the same plane, but included large caliber gunfire chasing after her. I'm listening, Bianca said casually, wondering how fast the state licensing board would pull her license if they got a load today. Lacey kept going. He tried to play it off. You know how men are, a big smirk as he rubbed the water from his eyes. Then he pronounced with an awful grin that still makes me want to fill his mouth with broken glass. It's nice in here. Anyone else want to join? Men are such fucking idiots sometimes. Bianca did not comment. What she did do was continue drawing the third panel. Gunfire had struck the plane, and a part of the wing was falling from the sky. A cloud of smoke indicated lethal danger. In the distance, a missile gained ground. Lacey kept rambling. I need you to fix it, Bianca. I'm a mess. I can't stand being around him, and I feel like I should introduce him with a disclaimer. She dialed up the drama in her voice to say, I'm Lacey. This is my husband, Greg. For the record, we did love each other at one time, and he was interesting back then, but something happened, and now I'm drowning in regret. This was what, Lacey's third session? The woman could squeeze more words into an hour than any other client in history. Maybe Bianca should charge by the word. While Lacey kept spewing her emotional vomit, Bianca drew the second and third missile strikes, showing the plane starting an emergency descent. The second to last panel showed the Bianca Airlines jet nosediving towards its doom. If only Bianca could recast the spell she'd been under, jump back into the bottle, keep sleeping through this life, but she now couldn't unsee who she'd become, all because of the book. And Bianca's talking about this uh, self-help book that she's just published, and it has released uh, to crickets. And those crickets who have read it have left terrible reviews, and Bianca's just absolutely down and out. She's been just, crushing it in Austin with this therapy and growing as an influencer. And she decided to tackle a book, and the book is kind of the terrible reviews have really rattled something inside of her. And so she's going to go on to, decide that she's having a proper quarter life crisis and she needs to take a break from her job and go to Bologna, where she studied as a 22-year-old, I think, and kind of rediscover that European side of herself. So she's really fun. I can't wait for you to be introduced to her. And it reminds me of one other thing before I let you go. I've what I ended up doing with this book, I never knew it from the outset, is creating a book within a book. And Bianca's book is a self-help book, and it turns out to be kind of a dud for some, but also huge rescue for others. And so I ended up using her self-help book as the spine of my book. So it's like a book within a book, something I've done before um, with what was it? The Secrets of Good People, maybe, and maybe An Unfinished Story. But I ended up having to create a proper full self-help book in my mind and able to bring it to life in my book. So that was a fun challenge, and I love it. And there's this character called Peggy Ma, who's an anonymized client who Bianca uses in her book to share some of her techniques. And that's where things just went haywire for Bianca. Like, people don't understand Peggy Ma. They don't understand Bianca's methods in the book. And it's just too much. It's like over self-actualization. And so I had a ton of fun creating that. And then I tried to figure out a way for that book um, to kind of touch every character in the book and serve as the spine. Anyway, thank you for coming by and listening. What is it? Is it Monday morning? I guess I'm working right now, but not for long. I hope you guys have a great day, and cheerio. I'm going to do this more often, and I think I will certainly do it on release day too, on August 18th. In the meantime, please, if you will, please pre-order my new novel. I'd so appreciate it. All right, ciao.